Hello, everybody. Welcome to Underscore. My name is Shannon. I'm the Director of Customer and Content Marketing here at Intellum, and very excited to be on the call with you all today. So every month, we host this webinar series called Underscore, and the idea is just to bring together people in the industry, in the community, to talk about the things that are top of mind for you, whether that's education strategy or the topic of today. We're going to be talking about streamlining the creation of e-learning content. So, a quick overview of what to expect during our call together today. You're going to hear from Trevor from Kinesso. I'm going to introduce him in a moment, but he's going to talk about their content development process, how they're creating e-learning content and kind of streamlining that, making it more efficient over time. You're also going to hear what their process is, how they're using Evolve as part of that content development process. So not just the creation, but also the review and the publication of e-learning content to their learning management platform. And then you'll also hear a little bit about, we recently released a new update to Evolve's content authoring tool called Cloud Sync. So you'll hear a little bit about that and how that's going to speed up your workflow. But before I introduce our guests, I'd actually love to hear from you, who is on the call. What's your name? Where are you calling in from? Maybe a little bit about yourself. So feel free. I'm just going to pop a little message in the chat here, but then feel free to kind of say hello. And I will go ahead and introduce. I've got a slide. You can probably see them on the screen too. But this is Trevor and Anderson. So Trevor is the head of product enablement at Kinesso, which is an IPG media brands company, and he shares that role and responsibility with Sean, his counterpart. So they kind of run this team together, and he'll talk to you a little bit about how his team is organized, what their charter is. And then Anderson is also joining us today. So he's a senior product marketing manager here at Intellum, and he's been working really closely with the Evolve team, and one of the people who's here to kind of talk about Evolve Cloud Sync, what it is, what it does, why it's interesting. All right, so with that, Anderson, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. So yeah, just as we get started, kind of setting, I guess, the framework for how we're going to approach the conversation today. So we're talking principally about content authoring and how to speed up content development and content maintenance, and how the tools offered by Intellum will enable you to do that, I think, in some pretty almost magical kinds of ways. And we're kind of coming at this from an Intellum point of view in response to a lot of the challenges that we see content creators and LMS admins facing in making effective learner engagement and doing that at scale. Some of the principal challenges that we've heard from folks and that we've experienced ourselves is, one, ensuring that content is up to date and accurate. Two, creating these really complex and time-consuming manual workflows to manage course versions and changes. I mean, how many zip files do you have on your drive that are like, Evolve course 22, version AC, final, use this one, _ exclamation point, right? And then that, of course, makes it really difficult to customize content at scale when you're always having to chase down these different zip packages and files to understand which is the right one to use in the right place. So I think the real opportunity here that we're speaking to is having the combination of an authoring tool and an LMS solution that makes it possible to streamline the delivery of content and updates and reduce that complexity of publishing content. And as a result, it increases the scalability, right? Like making it easier to localize and customize that content so that you can keep that content up to date everywhere automatically. And if you can do those things, then I think we all get excited about the possibilities, the way that you can focus more of your efforts on the kind of work and activities that actually improve the learning experience, that drive the changes to the business outcomes that you want to see, and less time chasing down updates and doing the administrative side of things. So at Intellum, and I work in product marketing at Intellum, we think we're pretty uniquely positioned to offer a solution that meets those challenges. And we'll be talking about that, about how you can use Evolve and the LMS platform, both Intellum products together through a native integration that we have that combines them in some really unique ways that I don't think you're going to find in any of the other market alternatives. And it'll eliminate some of that pain with managing SCORM files and troubleshooting third-party connections that you're probably dealing with now. We call this integration Cloud Sync, and we just released it a couple of weeks ago. We'll be looking at it more in depth later, but we did invite some of our friends, one of our friends from Kinesso here to talk about you about how they're using Evolve in the Intellum platform. So Shannon, you're going to facilitate that convo, so I'll just hush and let you dive in.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so you can see Trevor here. And we'll start and we'll set the stage a little bit, Trevor, just around who you are, your team, your charter, kind of what you have been set up to work on. And I think one of the things that's neat about Underscore is so often in this industry, we're sometimes doing things for the first time, or we've been given a new mandate where maybe we've been focused here, now we're pivoting, we're adding this additional thing, or we're trying something new. And so we're learning from each other as we go. And so it's just helpful to kind of have context. And the idea, hopefully, is there's some, inspiration that you can take for your own content development process, some things that you might want to try, tweak, to make things more efficient. So Trevor, if you want to just share a little bit about your team makeup, things like that.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So hello, I'm Trevor, and I'm part of Kinesso, which is part of Media Brands, which is part of the Interpublic Group, or IPG. And IPG is one of the big 6 advertising holding companies globally. Media Brands within that is a media agency network, and we have agencies that run all of the media planning and buying for various large global brands. So what Kinesso does within that is we're the data and tech driven addressable arm and performance arm, and we support all of the digital advertising and everything around that our clients do. So my team specifically, we're called Product Enablement, and I lead Product Enablement with Sean Barry, who's my colleague in the US in Chicago. Kinesso creates products that support Kinesso and also some of our agency partners on the media and the media planning and buying process. So we have a lot of products, and we just create the content to help people get to know the products and to use them really effectively. So my team does. We have a network of instructional designers that do more than instructional design. They develop our content as well. So they design and develop our content. We have a graphic designer, we have a technical writer, we also have a product trainer who does our live training, and we have regional leads as well. So sometimes we have products that are only available in certain markets, or we need to present them in a certain way for a certain market, and our regional leads work with leadership to make that happen. So that's Kinesso, that's how the team is structured. Our charter is to really just help people be successful with our products, right? So the way that we decided to do that, and our products have been around for a while. Well, some of them have, some of them are brand new, and our team has been around for a while as well. But what Sean and I decided to do really was almost do a bit of a reset on the way we think about product education and customer education in general. So we developed a new curriculum for our products and effectively split it into 2. So there's the sales enablement side, which we call Essentials. That will give people an overview of the product, what the problem is that product solves, and lists out the values. Rather than just talking about the features, we talk about the value to the end user and to the brand that we're working with as well. That's really useful for people who might be pitching the product, won't necessarily be hands-on keyboard users. And then for those hands-on keyboard users, we do have the user education as well. So what we want to do with that is to go a little bit beyond memorizing the flow of using a product. We want to put people in different scenarios. We want them to be challenged, and we do have certification exams associated with those courses as well, so they can get certified in that particular product. So that's the 2 types of training that we have, and that's really the baseline for everything. And then we'll build on top of it. We do have some fairly simple products. We do have some really complex products that our data scientists use and things like that. So for some of those ones, we will put live training on top of that. We'll have different types of engagements that we have on top of that, e-learning as well. But that's really the foundation of everything we do, and we'll build on top of it depending on the complexity of the learning outcomes.
And how many product lines is your team supporting?
So we have 5 categories, I would say, of products. So there's an audiences side of things, there's planning and optimization, there's activation. So that's actually like buying your campaign. And then there's reporting. So that covers the kind of campaign end-to-end process. And then we also have innovation. So that largely focuses on AI at the moment. So how can we use AI to bring efficiencies to everything that we do? And then within that, there's a number of different products that we have within each of those 4 categories. So we're supporting all of those. So it's a big suite of products.
For sure. And I think probably a lot of people can relate to, there was kind of one way that things are done, and what you're doing is kind of pulling back, resetting. Well, how do we actually want to educate people across all these products? Is
Mhm.
that it sounds like there's kind of a baseline, but then also that opportunity to add and augment based on the complexity of the product.
Yeah, exactly. We're not trying to do like a cookie cutter approach to everything, but what we are trying to do is bring standardization,
Sure.
consistency, just as a baseline, and then build on top of it.
Yeah, we did an underscore at one point on UX, and I remember that was one of the UX principles is consistency, that people will kind of know when they what to expect, and they would see one course or see another and know that it's a Kinesso course, right?
Mm.
All right, and we have a visual for this next question around, can you talk a little bit about your tech stack? What are you using to facilitate all this e-learning content creation, actually delivering it to the learner?
Yes. So this is another thing that we did from scratch, Sean and myself. So we decided to use Jira as our project management tool. So, and I'll talk about our process in a little bit, but when we kick off a project, that's what we will use to then handle all of that process. Within that, you'll find all of our links to documents. We use that to communicate with our stakeholders because there can be a lot of them, and they're all over the world, as our team is as well. So Jira makes that quite easy for us to do. We then develop all of our content in Evolve, and actually I would say we use a mixture of Evolve and then also the Intellum platform as well. So there are some times where we might use native elements in the Intellum platform to host various materials, but most of our content is built in Evolve. And then we use the Intellum platform as our learning management system, and as I mentioned, to host other different types of content. So for example, when we build exams, those are built in the Intellum platform. Our certification exams are built natively in there. Now, because we have a product, it's a bit easier for us to do measurement, which is quite nice. So while we have the metrics that you can get in reporting in Intellum, like registrations, completions, that kind of stuff, we also use heap analytics to get another level of an analysis that helps us to identify product usage. So heap is actually what we have in our product itself. And then we also have heap tagged up in the Intellum platform, and we have the same identification in there. So this is brand new for us, and we're still actually creating a lot of the KPIs and doing all of the connections and things like that. But in theory, what this will allow us to do is if we teach somebody to do a particular action in a product, we will be able to see when they go and do that thing in the product, and we'll be able to see things like how long it's taken them. We'll be able to see if there's a difference in the time it takes somebody to do that action versus somebody who hasn't completed the training, and then get a load of those insights that we can feed back into our content development process. That's going to be some really rich data that's going to make it really exciting for us to really be able to develop some really awesome content, and I'm quite excited about that.
I'm also excited about that. I had Heap at a previous company, and we did that, would kind of measure after a live training, were people more likely to use the product, who is actually going in and doing stuff. And so it gives you that additional layer of insight. We also had Christy Hollingshead, who's the VP of Customer Education at Heap. She was on one of our underscores earlier this year talking about metrics to measure, and then obviously talking about how you can tie customer education metrics to product analytics. So I'll post that recording in the chat if anybody's interested in hearing about that. But talk to us a little bit about your content development process. The first thing that stands out to me is obviously it seems pretty streamlined, but how did you get to this point? What does it look like today? How's that changed over time?
Yeah, it's definitely changed, and it's evolving. Excuse the pun, but it's something that we constantly look at, because one thing that I recognize is the people that we work with might change, the company structure might change, for example. So it's something that we do have to look into all the time, but it is working relatively well for us at the moment. So we do a lot of work behind the scenes, Sean and myself and the rest of the team, to work with leadership to prioritize what we need to work on and when we need to work on it. And it's largely tied to our product roadmap. So we know when something needs to be released, and we know when we need to support it. We would then kick off that particular project, and with that we have a lot of templates and things that we use. So at the project kickoff, we have a design plan. That's when we would define the aim, we would define the learning objectives, who the audience is, and then also any KPIs that we need to be aware of that we can measure to. And that's going to be new for us because we can now actually say these are already defined, and we can draw those connections. Once we've got all of that agreed, we move into what we call the alpha phase, which is where we don't really storyboard. I think I described this to you as content boarding, where because it's a product, there is a specific way of using that product. And what we need to do is ensure that's correct. So we work with product managers mostly to get all of our content in this content outline and make sure that it is accurate. We just tell them to put stuff in there. Our technical writer will go in and edit it, make sure it is using our voice, and then also just make sense from an instructional point of view. We'll get that all signed off, and then we'll move into the beta phase, which is in Evolve. And that's really where our IDs have the freedom, the creative freedom, right? So we've got this content. It's up to them now to decide what is the best way to present this information. What components are you going to use in Evolve? Is there anything that we can bring in, like video? Does that make sense? Some of our IDs have used GIFs, for example, to show very short processes in our products, which works really well. And then also there may be some things in there that we can identify as needing to have something else. So, is this going to go into the exam? Is this going to go into a live session or a workshop? And that's where we can have these kind of discussions as well. Once all of that is done, and I forgot, graphic designer will come in at this stage as well and help with all of our assets and make sure that if there are any complex processes or concepts we need to illustrate through images, we can get all of that done there as well. We will then move into the Intellum platform for sign-off. And this is something that has actually changed a little bit with versioning and cloud sync, but we will get sign-off on the final course and then release it to our main audience. And that's the process in a nutshell. It sounds really simple. In reality, what happens is we actually just move through these individual cycles over and over again at times, right? So if the content isn't where it needs to be, we'll go back and we'll revise it, until our SME is happy, and then we'll move on to the next phase. So that's what we currently do.
That's awesome. I love how you've been kind of streamlining this, making it more efficient over time. But the thing I like about Underscore is it's very real. It's very relatable that, yeah, sometimes you cycle through these last two a little bit and you have those me reviews. And, we're creating structure, but also remaining flexible. And I think especially when you're supporting fast moving, fast growing companies and ever changing products, having that flexibility in your process to be able to move quickly and not be super rigid. But I do think personally, I think structure just helps you to kind of move things forward efficiently. So I'm going to stop sharing. Anderson, I'm going to let you talk about Cloud Sync. So Trevor, you just mentioned, with versioning and Cloud Sync, those are some things that are going to streamline the process even further. So Anderson, I'll let you kind of touch on what that is and how that works.
Yeah, so two things before I do that. One, I just saw a question come in from Courtney, who Trevor was asking where accessibility falls during your process. When are you looking at accessibility compliance for courses and things like that?
Yes, that is a good question. So it's something that we have, but it's not where it needs to be quite honest, but it is in that final stage. So it's effectively in between the beta and the gold. So we have a checklist for people to take a look at. Part of that is doing QA. The other part of that is an accessibility checklist that is growing. So we are working on standards for the course the courses as a whole and everything that we do as a whole, but we will have an accessibility checklist that's within that process, and we have that linked in our Jira. So that's something you have to do before you get onto into the final step. But yeah, it's definitely something that we are working on making better.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tease something both for you, Trevor, and for you, Courtney. So Evolve right now is undergoing an accessibility audit, and we've made some changes to the platform that we're having reviewed by an external auditor that we hope to launch before the end of the year. And we're going to make it much clearer when you're in the Evolve content authoring tool, which components and settings will make your Evolve course fully accessible and WCAG compliant. So we're going to really try to make that much, much easier, much more visible, and even provide a template of what a fully accessible Evolve course looks like so that you can even build off of that.
That is very cool.
Yeah, so we're excited. We're pretty proud of how accessible the Evolve platform is already in terms of its ability to create web accessible, fully accessible content. But we have heard from our users that it would be better if we could bring that more obviously to the forefront, since that's something that we're seeing a lot of drive for, and I think in some really good ways. Okay, I'm going to move us along, and I know there's more questions coming in. We'll get to some of those in some Q&A time, so feel free to keep putting those into the Q&A. Shannon, did you want to do a poll now, or do you want to do that later?
Yeah, let's do the poll now. Okay, here we go. Quick poll just for you all on the call. First question is around, are you currently using an e-learning authoring tool? Reason I ask this is because you're on a call about streamlining e-learning, but sometimes, we don't use a tool, we create in other things. And then the second question is around, are you using Evolve in particular? Just because that'll help us understand who's on the call and what kind of tools you're using and how this applies to you. And also because we have additional training and next steps. So knowing which one's appropriate for you. All right, I will give this a second. I think most of us have responded. All righty, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Okay, so it looks like majority of folks, can you see the poll on your screen? I don't know how this, share results. Here we go. There it is. All right, are you currently using an e-learning authoring tool? 92% of people said yes. Awesome sauce. And then are you currently using Evolve? 77% yes, 23% no. Cool. Awesome. Well, either way, we're glad you're here. Courtney, sounds good. Definitely have more info for you, and we'll send you a recording and all that good stuff. But Anderson, go for it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Okie dokie. So one of the things that I wanted to do real quick is go back to your tech stack slide from Kinesso, Trevor, just because there's a part of the process that I want to highlight, and that is that part that covers content development and getting that over into the LMS platform. Because I think that for the things that Intellum can offer you all, it's this particular combination that Kinesso is using, the Evolve tool for content authoring, the Intellum platform for delivery, that is where CloudSync becomes super valuable, and where I want to spend some time talking about how these two tools play with one another in ways that allow you to put more focus on the kinds of stuff that Trevor was talking about. Like, Trevor, I loved that product enablement is tying outcomes and KPIs to product usage and product adoption. Like, I put it in the chat, but you want to talk about proving out the ROI and the budget spend that product enablement wants to ask for. You tie it to product adoption and product usage, and you draw that clear line. But to be able to even start to think strategically like that, you have to have time, right? You have to have some capacity freed up to be able to rise above just trying to get the content created and out to learners and keep it up to date. And that's what CloudSync, really the end goal of CloudSync is, like, let's make that easier on you so that you can spend more time doing the kind of strategic work that we just heard Trevor and his team, or talking about his team getting into. So why does CloudSync matter to you? Well, earlier we looked at a different version of this slide, and we talked about those challenges up at the top, things that make learner engagement, scalability difficult, the ensuring the content's up to date, the workflows that you have to set up to do that are often super manual and error prone, and the difficulty that makes customizing content at scale. Those are the exact things that we had in mind when we were building the CloudSync integration between Evolve and the Intellum platform. Because those are both part of the product umbrella for Intellum, we could make a pretty robust native integration between those two tools that's going to be leaps and bounds beyond anything that you could do with a third-party integration, where you're taking tools, a content authoring tool from one vendor, an LMS platform from another vendor, and trying to make those talk together in some sort of way. What CloudSync does is enables, we think, deeper and more effective collaboration between the content creators and the LMS admins. And sometimes those are one and the same people, but oftentimes on teams with more than 2 or 3 people, you have folks whose primary swim lane is content creation, and that's what they're really good at, and somebody whose primary swim lane is LMS administration, and they're focused more on the strategic initiative side of things and making sure that courses are packaged together and visible to learners and driving engagement in the LMS platform. And if you can have tighter collaboration between those two groups, then you can start to build those bigger strategic initiatives. And one of the obstacles that CloudSync can remove from you attaining that kind of collaboration is the ability to deliver updates from the content authoring tool into the LMS platform and the connected learning activities and courses there without you having to manage any of the files, without you having to chase down updates, without you having to make those complex file names that I was talking about earlier. So it makes it much, much easier to create and utilize courses at scale, to localize those courses, to use those courses in the Evolve courses in multiple different platform activities, LMS platform activities, and even in multiple instances. And we'll take a look at some of those things in a little bit more depth. So this is kind of big picture overview, what we think CloudSync enables for teams. And you'll see right there in the middle, this is exclusive to the Intellum platform. This kind of collaboration between content authoring tool and LMS system is really just between the Evolve content authoring tool and the Intellum LMS, because we've knitted them together in ways that you can only do with a native integration. So maybe you recall or are still living in those days of managing multiple different tools and big unwieldy zip files and manual workflows. Well, you're going to be able to say goodbye to that whole mess with Evolve CloudSync, because the 3 things we principally are able to give you here is, one, the ability to maximize your creativity. So as a content creator focused on creating engaging courses, you're no longer having to worry about publishing those courses out and hand delivering those courses to all the different places they need to get so they end up in the LMS in the right place and published out at the right time so that learners have up-to-date content. You can just focus on course creation, because all of those updates that you're making within the Evolve platform on a particular course, those are automatically syncing into the cloud, and those are going to get pulled down automatically into the LMS activities that Evolve course is linked to. That then allows you to do what Trevor and his team have been doing, which is to elevate your strategy more. You can spend more time on the LMS admin side, keeping your initiatives relevant, because you have quick access to all the content that's being created in Evolve. You have quick access to that at your fingertips in the LMS platform, able to create and stand up a brand new LMS learning activity just a couple of clicks by pulling out and saying, I want this Evolve Cloud course to be the backbone of this LMS activity. And it's just 3 or 4 clicks and you've got the thing stood up. And then you know that course is going to stay up to date. Every change that's made in the Evolve platform will get automatically delivered over into that course without you having to go chase down a file, upload that file, and then publish it out from there. So let me dive a little bit deeper into some of the key features of CloudSync, both from a creator standpoint and from an LMS admin standpoint. That first one about maximizing creativity, that happens by freeing you from having to save and publish out the courses. Every 30 seconds, we're syncing the changes that you're making into the Evolve Cloud, and then those changes are being delivered into the LMS platform activities that are connected to that particular Evolve course. And this is something that you can manage as a creator. If you want to make bigger changes to a course, you can actually toggle CloudSync off for a particular course and say, don't send through any updates yet, because maybe you're wanting to make big changes that you want to go through all at one time. You can still take advantage of those being automatically delivered. You just turn CloudSync off for that particular course for however long that takes. And maybe you need to get stakeholder review and buy-in and kind of go through some iterations. And as soon as you turn Cloud Sync back on for that course, it'll take any of the changes that you've made since the last time it was synced to the cloud, deliver them all at the same time. So you get the flexibility of having your work sync automatically in the background and also being able to pause that for a moment so you can take a step back and make a bigger set of changes. From a utilization standpoint, you get to be freed up about create really good content and engaging content and worry less about how that's going to be utilized on the LMS side of things, which for some content creators is really helpful. Whether you're making a small change or edit to a single course or a big change to something like a theme. And that's one of the kind of cool things that Cloud Sync allows you to do now is if you're using themes in Evolve, if you make a change to a theme that's used by multiple courses, you'll see that theme get synced everywhere that theme is being used. So you don't have to go and change the theme and update the theme course by course. It'll percolate all throughout everywhere that theme is being used. And those updates will be reflected as soon as you publish those courses out. So again, your focus stays on creating good content, not on managing updates. And for a lot of creators, we've heard that's what they want to be doing. That's why they got into what they're doing now. On the LMS admin side of things, we've made it a lot easier to create platform activities, courses from Evolve content. You'll be able to, I think you'll really love the clarity and the simplicity of having that up-to-date content always at your fingertips, because you don't have to be pinging your content creators all the time about, do we have the latest version of this course? Where's that file? You can just pop into the course on the admin side in the Evolve platform, and you'll actually see that there is a little timestamp there. And you can see that in the bottom part of that top image there, the content last updated timestamp, that gets updated in real time, showing you the last time that the Evolve content that you're using for that course was updated in Evolve. And so you can have at a glance understanding of if that course has changes for you to review or for you to publish out to learners. And I think that's key as well to understanding how this process works. The content creator making edits in the course, those go into the Evolve Cloud, those get pulled down into the LMS activity, but they're not seen live by learners until an LMS admin either presses the sync button or reviews those changes and publishes them out if you're using course versioning. So there's no real risk of a content creator making a change to a course that's immediately seen by learners in sort of a, oops, I wish I hadn't done that. The LMS admin still has full control of the learner experience, but we're just shortcutting the process. I mean, this is taking out that process of getting the file, downloading it, uploading it, and then publishing it. You can skip straight to the publishing, the review and publishing part of things. So important to clarify there. The other piece is that you can use a single Evolve course in multiple different Intellum Platform instances. We have quite a number of customers who have an instance of Intellum LMS that's set up for employees, one that is set up for their partner education, one that's set up for customer education. And there is some content that needs to be uniform across all three of those instances. You don't have to make 3 different courses in Evolve paired one-to-one to each of those instances. You could have a single course that's deployed in multiple Intellum LMS instances, and the update that you make to that course will be reflected in all of the different places that you're using that Evolve content. And then the last thing for platform admins, we understand from like an administrative side that it's important to have clear line of sight into how you're using Evolve course content in your LMS, and especially in the Intellum platform. And so we've added a couple of reporting fields that give you that kind of clarity on the platform side. So for the LMS activity report, you're now able to see the Evolve course IDs and the Evolve course URLs for all of the Evolve courses that you're using within your LMS. So if you do have a single activity that's mapped to a bunch of different, or a single Evolve course mapped to a bunch of activities, you'll be able to see that here. You can also see kind of what is going to be the scope of impact on changes I make on a particular Evolve course, or how do I prioritize which Evolve or which LMS activities that I need to republish because they've just had updates that have been made to the Evolve course. So really trying to help you understand how are we utilizing Evolve courses in our Intellum platforms and activities, and what is the impact of the different changes that we might make there. So that was a lot. If I was going to summarize it all, I'd just say that we're super excited on the product side of things to make your life easier with using the combination of Evolve and the Intellum platform, because we know from our own experience and from hearing from you, get stretched thin and your time comes at a premium. And each minute that you're spending on creating these manual workflows and file transfer kinds of things takes you away from the kind of strategic work that Trevor was talking about earlier, where you're trying to elevate the level of value that your enablement, your customer training, your partner education is giving to the company. And those manual processes that seem to drain all of your time away, they can be pretty error prone too. So if we can help remove some of that, which we're doing with CloudSync, we think that you're going to have more success scaling your initiatives, more success proving out the ROI and the business impact that you and your team have on the bottom line for your business. And so that's what we're excited to do with CloudSync. Okay, that was a ton. How are we doing on time, Shannon? And what else do you need from me?
That was great. Thank you for talking through that. I think you hit on some points that when we initially were talking about CloudSync, all of my like, what if that went live to everybody? And you talked about how, because we all have those fears around, what if I accidentally sync this thing that I'm in the middle of to everybody? And I think our team has done a really good job about thinking about those things. And I feel like this definitely falls under the hashtag do more with less, streamlining things. Yeah, but Trevor, I just have one more question for you before we head into Q&A, which is just, you were talking earlier about how things will change with versioning and CloudSync. So can you talk a little bit about, and your team is part of a beta that we did around Evolve CloudSync. What has your team seen, as participating in that beta, getting access to that, and then how will this kind of change things for your team moving forward?
Yes. So a bit of history, I guess, with the way that we've used in Intellum products. We started using Evolve first, and we didn't have the Intellum platform. And one of the main reasons that we decided to onboard the Intellum platform was the integration with Evolve. So even prior to CloudSync, there was already efficiencies that we were seeing, right, with the way that the two platforms link together. I mean, just the fact that you don't have to download a SCORM file and then upload it again. But with versioning and with versioning and with CloudSync, it takes away really any of that worry with our instructional designers or anyone working in the platform, because it just gets done, right? And there's always that thing of being like, okay, I need to go and hit publish. Or I had constantly done this where I was looking at something in Evolve, and then I would go into the Intellum platform and check to see what version was there and be like, oh, is that the current version, or have they uploaded it yet? So I was doing some of those checks as well, but now we don't need to, because there'll be a version in draft. I can go and look at that, it's already there. So for me, it takes away a lot of that. For the people working in the platform as well, it takes out a lot of that work too. The other thing as well is with that process I was talking about, and historically as well, I think in just content design, you have to be quite rigid and quite strict around when you move into phases and not going back and editing stuff as well. And that isn't the nicest way, I think, to be collaborative, when we're working with our SMEs and our product experts. And it happens all the time when we think we finished something, we've got it in Evolve, and then there is a minor change that we need to make, or somebody spots a spelling mistake or something like that we need to correct. And we can do that really easily, and there's no worry about, I've literally done this where I've realized something is wrong. I've already uploaded the SCORM file to another LMS, and then I've been like, all right, now I need to go back and do that whole thing again. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that. And that just makes it, I think, a little bit more collaborative. Although I do want to stick to our process, don't get me wrong, but it's not the end of the world if we if we do need to make a change after something has been published, it also makes it really easy for, in the world of products, things can change. We also might need to roll things back as well. And, versioning makes that really easy for us to do as well. So if there was something that was made live, maybe that feature can't go live anymore, or maybe it gets rolled back, we have the ability to roll our content back as well. So it just allows us to be a lot more, tied together to the product itself. And I need our content to be completely up to date with our product, because that's where we gain trust, right? If our onboarding and our training material is completely in step with the product, that's how people are going to get the most out of it. So this kind of stuff is just really integral to what we do.
Yeah, and just really quick to add on, because I saw a question from Kristen about versioning, and there's kind of two places that you can take advantage of versioning when you're using Evolve and the Intellum Platform. There's the Intellum Platform side of things, where for a particular learning activity and in a particular instance, you can control which version that learners are seeing. The advantage that you might have on the Evolve side is if you needed to roll back all of the instances of an Evolve course to a previous version, then if you are using versioning within Evolve, you can basically say, okay, we're not using version 2 anymore, because what just happened is exactly what Trevor described. We thought that we were going to go live with a particular product update. We're not. So I want to prevent, as a content creator, any new learning activities in my LMS being created with this content, but I don't want to delete all this content, because in a month, we're going to be able to go to this version. So you make the default version in Evolve a previous version. That means that on the LMS side, if anybody is creating a new activity or something like that, they're creating it with the version that you as the content creator know is the most accurate version. And so you're not having to tell them like, oh, wait, now that you've published that course, go in there and make these edits. You're saying this is the approved version from a content creation standpoint. And then in the future, you just change which version is the default version in Evolve, and then you can see those changes sync in Cloud Sync.
Yeah. And just to add on to that as well, in relation to Courtney's question, sorry, I typed an answer to that and I should have answered it live. But so we do translate content. Our e-learning gets translated into, at a minimum, Spanish, but also Portuguese, and then potentially other languages in the future. Versioning is something else that is going to help us do that. We only turned versioning on fairly recently, but what that will allow us to do is to have multiple language versions within the same house, if you will. I don't know the technical term for it, but rather than having completely separate versions of the course that have that are in different languages, again, it just keeps everything a lot more centralized, and it's a lot easier for us. Again, with translations, process is definitely important, because we will, for the most part, develop content in English first, not always, but then it means that once that's signed off, we can get it translated through our translation vendor, get everything uploaded back into Evolve and into Intellum, and it's all tied up really nicely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really important if you're working, of course, if you need that kind of content localization. And fun fact, we also have a translation API that can automate that process for you as well. So whether you're using a third-party vendor or you want to bring that all under Intellum, that can be part of the automated process, is the localization.
Oh, I'll have to find out more about that.
We can connect after the webinar. Okay, Shannon.
Yeah. All right. So this is my quick ask. Someone actually said this, actually it was Christy, I think before the end of the webinar, just to say at the end of the webinar, there will be a short little survey. Zoom will send you a little survey. It just shows up on your screen when you leave. And if you can just fill that out, we host Underscore every month, and these are for you, right? So this is, what do you want to learn about? Who can we connect with and bring into the conversation to help you out? So this is for us to be able to help you. So please take a moment to fill that out. If you don't currently have an e-learning authoring tool and you're interested in trying out Evolve, don't take it from me. Our customers have great things to say about Evolve. Every time I talk to somebody about Evolve, they're like, this is my favorite authoring tool. I had one person tell me, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to an authoring tool, but I just can't use anything but Evolve. And so obviously we love to hear that, and we'd love for you to experience that as well. So we offer 21-day free trials of the Evolve platform. So you can try it out for yourself, see what you think. And with that, we will let you all go. Trevor, thank you for coming and sharing what your team is working on and kind of the behind the scenes of your whole process. And Anderson, thanks for walking us through Evolve Cloud Sync and some of those updates and how that applies to us in our day-to-day work. Well, everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next month. Bye for now.